He was the founder of the Sringeri Mott, established in 8th century in Karnataka. To come back to the present days, humanity is facing a challenging situation for a considerable period of time. So many have lost their dear ones during the pandemic, especially during the second wave of COVID-19. Almost every household has suffered the illness, and while the lucky ones have come out of the macabre experiences, the others with lesser luck have succumbed to death, and the fear of the third wave is looming over our head. Meanwhile, in Kolkata, a racket of fake vaccination camps has been busted. Such organized illegal activities and dishonest schemes go hand in hand with the helplessness of the common people. There are other areas as well in the society where there is overwhelming inequity, injustice, poverty, and helplessness. The job of a citizen is to protest. We are looking forward to listen to the voice of wisdom of our noted speakers who will speak out for those who don't have a voice within the system. However, in the first place, I will invite and introduce our Honorable Principal Ma'am, Dr. Nivedita Chakraborty, and request her to address the audience. Good evening, ma'am. The microphone is all yours.
Okay. Thank you, Meena. Good evening, everybody. Respected speakers. Today's speaker, Professor D.N. Tiwari, former HOD, Department of Philosophy and Religion, Banaras Hindu University, Professor Bala, Ganapathi, Devarakonda, HOD, Department of Philosophy, Delhi University, and I think Dr. Laxmikanta Padhi is also here, HOD, Department of Philosophy, University of North Bengal. All the delegates present here, participants, teachers of other colleges and universities, and teachers of Philosophy Department of Victoria Institution College and other teachers of Victoria Institution College, and my dear students. I'd like to welcome all of you to this two-day national webinar on behalf of Victoria Institution College and on my behalf. And also, I would like to thank all the speakers of today and tomorrow's national webinar to accept our invitation for giving talk and on this webinar. And I would like to thank also the ICPR, Government of India, for sponsoring this national webinar. Now, COVID-19 pandemic has destabilized our lives and fear has resonated across the globe. The world is struggling to survive from the pandemic in such a trying time when social distancing is a must. In the new normal for survival, the two-day national webinar organized by Philosopher Department to celebrate Philosopher's Day will stimulate and enrich our students and teachers on different aspects of philosophy. You heard from our teacher, Meena Lahiri, about Philosopher's Day. So I'm not going into that. I just want to say a few words about our college. Our college is established in the year 1932 by the daughter by Shuniti Devi, the daughter of Sri late Keshav Chandra Sen. It is a heritage college declared by Kolkata Corporation. The college has a long history. We have Victoria, I can say that we have Victoria Institution School is also there. So in the campus, school and colleges are there. Why I am telling about school also? Because Victoria Institution School was originally named as the Native Ladies Normal and Adult School that was founded on 1st February 1871 by late Brahmananda Keshav Chandra Sen, who was a philosopher and social reformer. So before coming to our college, established by Shuniti Devi, I should say something about the founder of the school, late Keshav Chandra Sen. Keshav Chandra Sen attempted to incorporate Christian theology with the framework of Hindu thoughts. The aim of the institution, as laid down by Keshav Chandra Sen, was to build up a scheme of education to fit women for her position in the society. For more than 8 decades, almost 9 decades, the Victoria Institution College has been rendering commendable service for the promotion of girls' education, and college believes that education does not consist in mere learning, but involves fostering a sense of social responsibility among students. We always try to carry the torch of education lighted by our founders, making women independent through education. Now I'm coming to the topic of two-day national webinar to celebrate Indian Philosophers Day. Actually, the topics of all the speakers are very much relevant and important to the present need of the society. What I have seen to make the future generation socially responsible. This discussion on ethics, morality, values, and are very much needed. And I think those will be covered by our speakers, respected speakers. So it will enrich and enlighten our students and the teachers also. During pandemic situation, philosophers also has a role in the society. According to an article of G. Lourdes Velasquez in NCBI, NIH, in this pandemic situation, philosophy teaches us that this crisis leads to two possible outcomes: relapse and recovery. Hence, there is no much distance between learning to die and learning to live. We understand that philosophers' task is not to find the meaning of life or tell others how they should live, but philosophy can provide conceptual tools useful to those who make difficult decisions in communicating and explaining them to others. So in this way, philosophers may contribute in the current situations and also in the future. You also heard from Mina's talk that what is the present scenario of Kolkata, of West Bengal, of India, and of the world. So it is very much relevant. The topic and the webinar is very much relevant for us today in such time where we cannot reach our students offline in the college in the pandemic situation. So I'd like to thank the philosophy department for arranging this two-day national seminar, and all the speakers. I again would like to thank all the speakers for this webinar, this national webinar. And again, I would like to thank everybody to join here. And I wish a grand success of this two-day national webinar. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. We are grateful to listen to her valuable speech. We are always thankful to our principal, ma'am, for her constant support and encouragement in every sphere of activity. To move on to our lecture session, distinguished Professor Sri Debendranath Tiwari is with us. A brief introduction of Professor Tiwari. He was former professor and head of the Department of Philosophy and Religion of Banaras Hindu University, Varanasi, and re-employed there in 2021. Visiting professor at MGI, Mauritius from 2014 to 2017. Some of his books published: The Upanishadic View of Life in 1986, The Central Problem of Bhattacharya's Philosophy in 2008, Language, Being and Cognition in 2014, Dynamics of Language, The Philosophy of the World of Words, 2 volumes, first edition from Germany in 2018 and first Indian edition in 2021. And more than 130 papers published in different international and national journals. But before I hand over the microphone to Professor Tiwari, I request the audience, please put off your microphone and camera off. Both audio and video must be put off during the lecture session. And if you have any queries, don't worry. If you have any queries regarding the content or the subject matter of the lecture, please put it in writing in the Google Meet chat box or the YouTube live chat box, which are available right now. And we will put it forward to our respected sir as soon as the lecture is over. Sir, may I request you to start the session? Tiwari sir, Professor Tiwari, may I request you, please put, yeah, thank you sir.
Thank you
Sir,
very much.
you are most welcome. You are most welcome.
So I'm
You
very
may
happy
start
that
your session. Yeah, start your session now. Okay, thank you.
I'm very happy
The microphone
to.
is all yours.
I'm very happy to know that Victoria Institution is organizing a 2 days webinar on values and morality embedded in Indian culture, in collaboration with ICPR New Delhi. The topic is very good. It is very interesting, and in the present time of the crisis, moral crisis, it is very important and relevant too. So I will not take much time, but I am thankful to Nivedita Chakravarti, the principal of the institution, and Mala Chakravarti ji, who invited me, and she was always in communication with during this period. So,
Sir, this is Meena. I'm Meena Chakraborty, not Mala.
Meena Chakravarti.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt. Please carry on.
Meena Chakravarti.
Yeah. Yes,
So
thank
sorry.
you, sir.
Meena ji, you are good lady. You always inform timely all the advancement you made to prepare for the today's lecture. I'm thankful to you. Professor Bala Ganapathi is here, and other scholars. Rajsekaran Ganesan is here, Arindam Malakar, and Kasturi Majumdar, and so many others are, all scholars are there. I address to all of them. And here I will just want to say you that I'm not going to deliver a lecture, but just a sharing of my views on values and morality embedded in Indian culture. So this is a sharing in this webinar with my views and you all. You all are scholars, more knowledgeable than me, and I'm happy that you have given the opportunity to share my views. Thank you very much. So, since beginning of the culture, the scholars, seers, sages, they try to find out the basic elements that can define human, and by managing which the whole cosmos can be managed. And what is the essential value of the man is also the essential value of the culture. I will come to that point. But how they identify in Indian culture, how the man is identified? Man is identified by the two great values. The first is knowledge, and the second is activity, action. That in one term is creativity. So the creativity is not the creativity of the human, but the creativity of the nature also. So the whole of the creativity since beginning of the nature and the human can be put into the culture if you want to define the culture. So, but it is very easy to define it as the creativity of the nature surrounding us and the human creativity in its completeness. So, why knowledge and man creativity? If you separate or isolate knowledge and creativity from knowledge and action from humans, they cannot be identified as creative being. And you can say that knowledge is not creativity, but no, knowledge is the basic creativity, and it serves as the incentive to duties, to create to actions. So both comprises the creativity of human and the nature. So these are the two major parts of the culture by which we can understand culture. People very often understand the culture by the outlook, gestures, crafts, literature belonging to the certain area that we call Bharat. And even in the Indian culture, they also make differences of South Indian culture, North Indian culture, West culture, East culture, and like that. But overall, whether it is South or North, East or West, the culture is identified by the foreigners, by us also, as Indian. So what is that? I have already told you that the knowledge we all share from east to west, north to south. And the activity we follow according to the knowledge we have. They are not much difference, but they make the whole Indian culture a perfect one. So how can we define? We identify by the knowledge and the culture, and we find the knowledge and the action, and we find the knowledge from our out rites and rituals, crafts, literature, philosophy, and other creative works. But how do we define it, Indian culture? So, if we go to the Athare Aranyak, we find a very good statement. Atma Silpani, Atma Sansakritir Vava Silpani Eter Yajamana Atma Sansakurute. So, the culture is the culturization in which the spirit, your spirit, culturizes its own self. So it is the Indian culture is the culture of the spirit of the uh, uh, what happened to it? Spirit of the surrounding of the territory, the way of living, the view of life, the view of philosophy, culture, and everything. So what we call Indian culture is the cultivation of the spirit, of the nature, and of the, yes, you can better use the word soul, the the culturalization of the soul and the nature. So, what does it mean? It means that not like other cultures and civilizations, Indian culture is different from them. Some cultures, some civilizations come very late and they are growing very fast and we follow them also. But now the time is that they are also coming to us. They contact us. They want to live our culture. So, what is the beauty of our culture? So, the first and foremost beauty of our culture is it is very broad. It has the assimilating uh, character in itself. So, what do we mean by assimilating? We can understand the assimilating character of the Indian culture in two ways. The first that you see, Atma Shatikar. That suppose take the example, the word Mitra. First, Mitra means friend or the deity Mitra. Now in Bengal, we we think so subjective that it become mitu, and now somebody use the word itu. So itu is so close to make it so close. Ah, uh, the masculine is addressed as feminine because of being so close. Itu Mitra is turned into itu. So there is development of language also, use of language also. So the second way is that we assimilate the other values and other people of the different cultures also. Not only we accept them, but we celebrate them also. You see, in France, 200 ago, the Muslims came in France. They were invited in France as laborer and others. But still, France has not accepted them as the as the foremost uh, civilians of France. They are not given, the Muslims are not given the prime post in the administration, in the government. But here in India, we see not only we accept them, but we have assimilated them. We celebrate them also. However, the same cannot be said about the Muslims. But we have the assimilating uh, character in our culture. This is our culture. So I will not go in detail about telling you the different characters of the Indian culture. So I will come to the basic topic. What are the values uh, and morality embedded in Indian culture? So you see, another a very great importance of Indian culture is its concept of value. You know, Indians do not believe these are that value only two values, three values, four values. Ah, but it believes and independent values. It believes in the value system. Value system means, you know, life is it's in itself is considered here as a system that we live in the system as the student life, household life, wanderer life, and lastly, we get freedom from all the uh, stages of life. So, likewise, we have the value system. And why we have the value system? So, the seers, Indian seers and sages, if you go to the Vedas, the Upanishads, Puranas, and Smritis, you will find that they realize that if values are not identified, and if we do not live the values, the society will not survive. The human civilization will be destroyed. Like we see, so many cultures arise, they flourish, like Greece, Rome, Aztec, Antec, Maya. So many civilizations came and they are destroyed. Now they are the things of history. But Indian culture is still continuing and it will continue. So there is a sense of continuity in Indian culture. So is the values. They live the values. Some foreign people they say that there is only grounding in the shastras. Grounding means saying do this, that this is value, this is not value, without giving any theory and any theorization. Why we do not feel to define or to give different value theories? There is a reason. Because we know value is not to theorize always, but it has to be accepted, it has to be lived. And when we live it, we are called virtuous. We command respect from all the corners of the society. And it is in Indian culture that the person who lives a virtuous life, the deities bless him from all the quarters. So what are the values? How they have managed the values? See, two phases I will say. The first is that we know, you all know, that we are the, I can say that desires are the basic elements for our actions. Even we are knowledgeable person, we have knowledge. But this knowledge gives incentive to duties. And these incentives in the form of desires are the cause of promptness in the duties. So, so many values we learn from parents. Matridevo bhava, pitridevo bhava, satyam vada, atithi devo bhava, brahma. So, this means you should have a sense of deity. in all the things, mother, father, teacher, guest, and not only that, but all the things you have to look into as divine, as deity. So we worship the water, the air, the sky, the trees, the rivers, and whatnot. We worship. Even there are some people, some tribes, they worship snakes also. They worship monkeys. We most of us, the Hindus, they worship trees also. So there is no theological dogma. There is no theological dogma. One can worship anybody, not only one God, but so many deities are there. Oh, there may be a concept of God, monotheism, but here from Vedas you will find that there is no monotheism. There is henotheism, kenotheism, as Max Muller uses the term. And whenever some person worship a deity, the deity becomes the strongest of all, the merciful of all the deities. So many times it is used that there is no philosophy in the Vedas and by the Westerners who always suffer from the Indian phobia. So they abuse, they criticize the Vedic teachings. But moreover, we find the elements of theology also, monotheism also. But ours is that even the tree has some divinity. It gives you fruit on which your life is sustained. The crops, the rivers, without air you cannot survive for a single minute. So space, you are already have your existence in space. Earth, you are here on earth, it nourishes you, it gives everything of your need and necessity. So they are deities. So because they have the divine power and we get benefited, we survive, we protect, we progress by the grace of the divinity in all of the them. So you are deity because I am benefited by you. You give something, you give at least an occasion to share my views. Therefore, you are a deity. Namaste to you all. So, this is the philosophy. Ah, this is our culture. So, we do not believe in the uh, one set or one or two values like Christianity in love, Islam in brotherhood and love, peace and all that. We believe in the system of values, and this system is is observed by them, by following which we get our desires satisfied, and lastly, after the satisfaction of all the desires, so the value system manages the desires, human desires. We have the desires, and the desires are classified mainly into four: the desire for wealth, the desire for sex, the desire for sex money reproduction, and etc., and the desire for dharma, that is to help others, to give donations, and all that. And lastly, the desire to renunciate all the desires, to desires to abandon, to desires to leave all the desires. And we practice it in different ashramas. That is brahmacharya, a very significant thing. In the first student life, we do not practice the um, purusharthas. We do not practice the institution of values, institution of life values. We only learn. For example, you see, we learn all the skill, all the teachings, lessons about the uh, about the satisfaction of desires. But we practice from the second stage, that is household. Unless we in the student life are not strong enough to carry on remaining 75 years of our life, our shoulders are not so strong to bear them. We cannot live a very happy life. We cannot live Jiveda Sarada Shatam, 100 years of spring, 100 springs of the life. We cannot live. So they manage the desires that we call Purushartha. So the desires for learning from all the quarter is prescribed for students. All sort of skills, all sorts of learning and lessons one learns in the student life. And because the aspirant has to enter into the household, and in household he practices um, basically the morality of earning the wealth, prosperity, and the philosophy is that you earn as much as you can earn, but there must be a morality of earning. If it is earning by following the honesty, it brings it is satisfied, and when it is satisfied, the wealth cannot disturb you any longer. So the next kind of uh, desires you can live, the desires of sex and producing children, and when the children are uh, born, uh, you have to maintain them. You have to maintain your family. If one is not capable of maintaining a family, he should not marry. The philosophy is if you have the capacity, you have the qualified, you can marry. Otherwise, not. If you cannot maintain a wife, you cannot maintain a family, a child, you cannot marry. So, practicing the values of satisfying the desire for wealth and sex, one becomes satisfied about the wealth, earning wealth, and that is much. Now I do not need, and sex after getting birth of a child. Then he moves to satisfy other sort of desires, and that desire is concerned with the value of giving donation, serving society, doing welfare duties for the society, and this way one get closer to the well-being of one's own. And lastly, after 25 years of the practice of wanderer's life, where he serves for the society, donates his property to needy, to downtrodden, and benevolence, help others. So, making other people aware of the values for a good society, for a good man. By good man, one they mean that one who is in the process to get his well-being, and a good society means the society who is getting much closer to the welfare of the people of the state or people of the culture. So this way, when all the desires are satisfied in the last 25 years, from 70th spring to the 100th spring, one enjoys, one lives the life of renunciation. He renunciates all the desires, even the desire of the freedom, moksha. So lastly, he lives the desire because moksha is also a desire. Pandi has written a sutra, moksha iksha asti. This means moksha is also adhikaran, substratum. And if you have got everything, you are satisfied, from all the mundane prosperity, wealth, sex, and donation ityadi. But if you are bounded by that, I am not free. I have not got moksha, not freedom. So it is also a bondage. So in Indian culture, it has been accepted as a desire, and this desire should also be renunciated. So lastly, abandons all the desires by satisfying them, not by only controlling and controlling them. So they should be lived with control. This is our culture. So it becomes value. The desires get value when exchanged with by duties with your easiness, satisfaction, um, enrichment, which is which appears from your face. So the about the morality, it has a very simple statement, and the statement is that Atmanasya pratikulani pareshamna samacharit. You do not perform a duty to others if the duty you feel, if performed to you itself, is painful, is worryful, is disturbing. So we should not perform a duty which you do not consider a duty. So the best concept of the duty you can find in Isopanishad. That is the Upanishad of the Rig Veda, and that is propounded well in the Gita and other Shastras. In Buddhism also it is administered. And what is that? Yes, this world is to enjoy. You have to enjoy this world. But how enjoy? You can enjoy in two senses. The first sense is that you have a desire to get some fruits, some prosperity, some richness, some material gains. So you have to make effort and you have to suffer the effect of your actions, duties. So this is not abused. This is also regarded venerable in our Indian culture. Swadharma and other things, Vedic Dharma, they are also regarded well as the Sakam Karma. So if you are in worldly life, you have to maintain this Swadharma, you have to maintain Swadharma. Swadharma means that your nature permits. The duty you have to perform that your nature permits. This is a very simple definition of Swadharma in our Indian culture. But very often it is confused. I'm not going to that confusion, how people are confusing. But it is the duty which you perform by your own. So there are two ways of doing things. One is to follow like the ships, blindly follow someone's experience. For example, you see somebody follows some great saint, somebody follows some prophet, somebody follows some book. So you do not exercise your mind. You do not try to experience the value in yourself. You only live it. You only follow it blindly. You are a blind follower. And that is contradiction of your own self to be a man. So it is, if man is creative, if man has the capacity, the value of knowledge, if man is the value of knowledge and duties, so you have to experience your own self. You should not be a follower like a sheep. You should not be a follower because this ideology is from a great mind, is from the God, is from like that. Yes, that may be useful only for helping you to experience, not more than that. But you cannot follow if the reasoning do not permit, if your knowledge do not permit it genuine. So the other type is that experience. Buddhism, Jainism, Hinduism, and all our cultural texts, literature also say that one should live his own experiences. And by living the own experiences, one can get progress, and can realize the truth. So there are so many paths, but you won't have to be captive of any of the path. Okay, what is good things in the paths made by the text, made by the persons, you accept it and you experience it. If you find it fit, you follow, but you don't be a blind follower. There is always a, because this time is changing, situation is changing, place is changing, everything is changing. You can't be a blind follower. So this is the another important value uh, that we need. We prescribe, Indian text, Indian culture prescribes to live your own life by your own experience. That is your creativity, not the creativity of others you follow like ships. Now, a very important and unique concept of the, you might be knowing, the innate depths. So very many scholars who are suffering from Indian phobia, they say that the human life is determined by the innate depths, and one's life is not free to um, live its own. The one man is to live his innate depths. So because we believe in the death, life after death. So punarjanma. So our this life is the is the consequent upon the duties, the fruits of the duties we performed in the past. And our future life will be determined by the duties, the actions, the duties we perform to our fellow beings, to our surrounding in the present. Some results, some fruits we get in this life, and others are preserved for the future. That determines your future life, the life to come. So there are innate depths. And since birth, if I ask a question, why you are born? Why is your birth? So what is your answer? If you are a Western influence or other religions have influence on you, you can say that yes, some say that God has given birth to me. Oh, how God interfere with your birth. Some others say, Western, they say that I am the result of the enjoying of my parents, enjoyment of my parents. They enjoyed and I came in existence. But if a Indian Hindu believe in the tradition of the Vedic seers, his own preceders, if he replies, why I am born, why there is my life here, I would have not born. So the simple answer is yes. You are born because you have innate debt. You did not pay the debt in the past life. Had you paid the debt in the past life, you would have not been born. You are born because you have debts to pay off, and that that debts are, in some shastras they are accepted 3, some others 5, some others more. But I think that they can be incorporated in 3 or 5 both. I'm telling you because this is very important point of Indian culture by this value. Uh, we have our inborn duties to pay up the parents. The mother has given birth, and this body is biological gene of the parents. Parents of the parents, we have a biological gene. This body is given by my mother and the father. So for this body with which I am living this life, I am indebted to my parents and I have to pay off. How can I pay off? By getting marriage and by begetting a child. So this way in Indian culture it is believed that the creation of the Brahma is continued in the form of following this debt, the debt of the parents. So it becomes moral because there is a following, there is a pay of the values, pay of the debts. So paying of the debt is a value. You can is a moral duty. You can say that there is no desire and therefore it is predetermined, it is innate, so it cannot be morally good. It cannot be. There must be desire and alternative also. So you have the alternative. You can follow you can pay up the debts to parents. Some people always quarrel with their mother and father. Some aggressive races are there. They always fight with the father and mother. They even kill, abuse, beat, and whatnot. But because they do not know the depths, the value. If they might have learned that paying the debts to the parents is a value, and it's a virtue also if we pay. This means we marry and get a child. This way we can pay our debt to parents. The other one is the Bhutrin. Bhutrin comprises of, Bhut means being insentient and sentient both. So the surroundings, we have debts to the air, because of which we are surviving, the food, the fire, and all the elements that constitute this world. So everything is the constitution of the 5 elements. So these 5 elements and the products of the 5 elements, like trees, water, without which we cannot survive this life. Essentially need the food and the medicine, and we get it from the trees, plants, grains, and all that. So we are indebted to them. So we should not abuse them. We should not misbehave with them. We can eat the mango, but we cannot eat the mango tree. We can eat. Why we are entitled to eat the mango tree? Because when we eat the mango tree or any flower we use, the sense is that the nature has gifted it to me because of my labor, because of my service to it. If I plant a tree and I always give water to its roots, always take care, then it flowers, it gives fruits. And that fruit, the leaves, the branches, dry, they are of my use. That is, the tree has gifted to us. This is our culture. This is the value that we should accept, we should eat, we should enjoy, we should use only the things from the entities outside as a gift by them to us. And that gift is because of the labor we have done to them. So not without reason. There is an argument. The argument that we have served, we have made some services to them, and they are just gifting me the fruits, and I am entitled very much to enjoy the gifts. So the third is, this also belongs to the debts to deities. So many deities are there. They care about us. If they are angry, they can harm you. But they are very happy. They are looking, taking care, though not visible. They are around you, and they are making help to your progress. The deities are helping you to get your professorship, lecturer, reader, professor, principal, and like that. So we accept it that in our survival and in our progress, there are blessings of the deities from all quarter. So we have our duty to them. So for guest also, Atithi, Atithi Devo Bhava. The guest, whether it is belonging to a lower caste or higher caste, it is Muslim or Christian or Jew, he is to be treated as a guest. And by this practice of the value, uh, one gets elevated, one gets very happiness, and so that. So the guest should be treated like the deity. And the last one is that uh, our debt to the teachers, seers, sages, by which our knowledge is so enriched, and we have reached with that enriched knowledge in 21st century. So we learn something from them, from anyone. And who made us learn, we are indebted to them. And we have to pay our debt to them. How can we pay? By ensuring the safety of the teacher and the community by following his path. Suppose there are two students and they learn the technique of making missiles and launching that and computer and all that. So if one is known about the Rishi Rina, the depth of the teachers, the seers, he can think that, oh, I have learned a great uh, knowledge. I can now launch the missiles, prepare the missiles, and I can fire the missiles. So for what? There is Risirian, and the Risirian is that for the protection of my teacher and the people around us. If other who is not aware of this reader, this depth, he can say, oh, I have learned a very wonderful skill. Now I can destroy all those who do not accept my ideologies and who want to live their life according to their experience. So this is why, because somebody is not following and your teacher is not following the ideology you are adopting, he should be killed. He has no right to live. From there, the terrorism is passed. So this is very important to learn the value of the inborn debts. You have inborn debt to pay off to the teachers also, and you can pay only by protecting the people, by respecting the learning you have learned from the teacher. You have to teach others also. So this way, I think Indian culture is so rich that it attracts the people. And nowadays, if some religious bigoty you do not take in mind, into consideration, you will find that it is the Sahaj Marg, eternal, where nothing extra. You need not require to worship some god or some deity. You are not required to go even the temple, but you are a Sanatani. You follow the tradition, the culture of your ancestors. If you do not follow, despite that you are the followers, because it is expected that the gene is there in you And one day you will respect all these values, the value system of Indian philosophy, the culture of the Indian philosophy, and that will be a matter of feeling pride to your own self. With these few words, namaste to you all. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your valuable speech. Uh, what you have said is our life is considered as a system, a value system. We live the value, and that's why we can be called virtuous. But sir, in this materialistic, profit-oriented corporate world, is it relevant anymore? Is it relevant, sir, anymore?
You see, this is the way I have interpreted the value. You see, materialist has no objection to it, because materialist can, if the materialist is accepting that whatever is there is a product of the matter, combination of the matter, so value is not created by the matter. Does matter create the values?
No, definitely not.
Yes. So values are our experiences that creates the values. Okay?
Yes.
Yes. So materialist cannot deny.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Sorry, I don't find any question in the chat box. So thank you, sir, again. And we will move to our second resource person, Professor Bala Ganapathi Devarakonda. And my colleague, Dr. Kosturi Mojumdar, will introduce him. Over to Kosturi. Kosturi, please put on your microphone and video. Kosturi.
Yes, thank you, Minadi.
Ganapathi ji, namaste.
Yes, welcome, sir. It is my great honor to introduce Professor Bala Ganapathi Devarakonda with you. Professor Devarakonda is presently heading the Department of Philosophy at University of Delhi. His research interests are in the areas of Indian philosophy, philosophy of religion, social and political philosophy, and philosophical practice. In addition to teaching and research, Professor Devarakonda is a certified philosophical counselor by American Philosophy Practitioners Association, New York. He is presently working on a project titled Yoga Consciousness in Mahabharata, its ethical value for societal as well as political well-being, and has completed a major funding research project under ICSSR on a study of popular imaginations and alternative narratives of digital and non-digital Telugu literature. He is serving as the regional coordinator of Council for Research in Values and Philosophy, Washington, D.C., and chief advisor to the Center for Ethics and Values, Ramanujan College, New Delhi. He was also the editor-in-chief of International Journal of Applied Ethics, published by Ramanujan College. He was a member of editorial board for Journal of Indian Council of Philosophical Research from 2016 to 19, and was the guest editor of the special issue on intersections of philosophy and poetry of Interdisciplinary Journal of Literature and Language, published by Author Press, New Delhi in 2017. He is presently a member of Research Project Committee of ICPR and was a member of the committee constituted by UGC for drafting Learning Outcomes-Based Curriculum Framework for Philosophy in 2018. He was a Chancellor's nominee for the Board of Management of Mohanlal Sukhadia University, Udaipur from 2018 to 20. In the year 2018, he was a member of the Review Committee of ICPR constituted by MHRD Government of India. From 2019 to 20, he was the chairman of the governing body of Maitreyi College, New Delhi. And now he is a member of the governing body of Bhogini Nivedita College, New Delhi for the year 2020 to 21. Among his numerous publications, I can mention a few in this short period of time. In 2012, History of Indian Philosophy, an analysis of contemporary understanding of the classical through colonial. In 2014, Orientalist and Nationalist Writings of Indian Philosophy. Role of Guru as an interpreter of Dharma in 2017. Hinduism in Thailand, its presence and absence in 2018. In 2020, his publications include Philosophical Doctrines of Andhakas, exploring early Buddhist sects of Andhra. Number 2, Global Lockdown Calendar. Number 3, Revisiting Dana, a response to Eurocentric approaches. Number 4, Relearning to be at Peace, exploring alternative conceptions. In the present year, Professor Devarakonda has written an article on shifts in the classical Indian conception of philosophical practice, Vedic, Itihasa, Puranic, and Darshanik. Last but not the least, South Asia Press is bringing out a new edition of Leviathan of Thomas Hobbes with a detailed introduction by Professor Devarakonda. Now we are eagerly waiting to listen his speech on ethics, health, and pandemic, which is very useful and relevant in this current situation. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kasturi, for that wonderful introduction. Dr. Nivedita Chakrabartiji, the principal of the college, Victoria College from Calcutta, and Dr. Saheli Basu Dey, convener of this webinar series, and Srimati Meena Chakrabarti, joint convener of this webinar, and the organizing team, Dr. Kasturi, Srimati Aditi, and Srimati Indrani Mukherjee, Sri Arindam, and other friends of the organizing committee and the college. My co-panelists, co-resource persons, Professor D.N. Tiwari, D.N. Tiwari, and Professor Laxmikanta Padhi. I also see Professor Sarat Panigrahi ji here, and my very good friends and well-wishers, all of them are here. Dear colleagues and friends, namaste to all of you. I really congratulate Victoria College for this, for organizing this wonderful event on a very relevant theme. And also I express my sincere gratitude to them for inviting me for this event. I must mention one thing here. I am not presently head of the Department of Philosophy at University of Delhi. I completed my tenure a few days back. So that's how probably the world CV you might be looking at. But yeah, the theme that you have chosen for this webinar is morality and values embedded in Indian culture. I would be definitely touching on this, but I would be taking a different route of reaching this theme that you have specified. The title that I have chosen is Ethics, Health, and Pandemic. Because the question that comes forward is, how is this pandemic related to ethics? Because health seems to be a different kind of node, and ethics seems to be a different kind of node. So how do we bring these two? And whenever we try to understand pandemic, we only understand pandemic in terms of something that occurs, some health concern that occurs at a wide geographical area, which affects huge population. Okay, so basically pandemic itself, the very definition of pandemic itself hints at the health aspect. It doesn't hint at ethical aspects. So if that is the concern, how do we look at the relation between health and ethics is my concern here. I would write certain questions and I will try to resolve them in the course of the discussion. So when we ask this question like, how are these two, health and ethics, related? Of course, when we talk about health, we do talk about healthy life, right? That's the goal of everyone. Each one of us aspire for or try to continue with a healthy life. Similarly, from the ethical perspective, all of us, without any exception, we also look for a good life and happy life. So it is true that we look for healthy life, and it is also true that at a different level, we look for happy life and good life. So, but do we club them together and see them in a holistic manner anytime? This is the question that we have to ask. Unfortunately, because of this modern developments of scienticizing each of these disciplines, which has segregated each one of these disciplines into watertight compartments, in terms of specialization, in terms of excessive focus on specialization, we only look at them as different components. Okay, but Indian conception doesn't, classical Indian conception doesn't limit itself to watertight compartments. Okay, so that's how it is needed that we have to look at both happy life, and good life to be within a broader conception called well-being, and then try to understand the whole issue. Only then we will have a better and appropriate, correct understanding of human life. So that is the broader framework that I'm drawing for my discourse to go further. Now the question is, as I already said, pandemic is understood to be something that is related to health and health crisis. Okay, so if it is only concerned with health crisis, does it have anything to do with ethics? Is the problem that we are raising. So when we are raising this kind of a concern, one of the questions that comes forward is how is health defined or understood? Friends, I hope I'm clear, right? I'm audible, right? Is there any disturbance or anything? Is everything clear? My voice?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I can go further, right? So, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, how is defined also very important for us. And the third one is how is health related to ethics is another important thing that I'm referring to. So whenever we talk about health, whenever we talk about ethics, we do talk about health and ethics in terms of the individual. So we do talk about the individual's health and the morality of the individual, and we also do talk about health of the community, okay, group, and similarly the morality of the community as well. Because morality or ethics is not just limited to the individual, while it focuses on the actions of the individual, rightness or wrongness, it affects the community. So that is how individual is also very important, and individual is stressed. It's not that while stressing individuality, it rejects or ignores the community. So these two are always brought together by health and ethics. This is one important significant point that brings health and ethics together, which all of us must make note of. Similarly, when we talk about the relation between these two, health and ethics, we have to ask this question like, are they independent or are they dependent? Or is there any other better relation than dependency and independency when we talk about health and ethics? So this is what I would be explaining in the further course of discussion. So coming to the relation between these two, both of them, both ethics as well as health, both of them address human suffering. Okay, so that's the conjoining point for both of them. Both try to address how to avoid human suffering. Okay, whether it is moral suffering or a biological suffering, whatever it may be. So both try to address human suffering. One only concentrates on biological pain or suffering, and the other relates it to relational aspect of behavior, and that's how it looks at a more broader perspective. And the other important aspect that we must note with regard to the relation between these two is the extension of the self. All of us as human beings, it is not that we would be happy with ourselves. We always try to extend ourselves further. Okay. So in the process of extending ourselves, we try to relate to the other, and that is where ethics comes into picture very strongly. Okay, so that's biologically, if you try to extend yourself, you would be limiting only to your offsprings. But you try to go beyond that in the behavioral way with good behavior, whatever, right? moral kind of one that we talk about. When we understand extension of the self in those terms, we try to extend it beyond our own progeny. So that is another important aspect that we have to take it into consideration when we are talking about extension of the self in terms of ethics and also in terms of health. So this is another important conjoining point that I would like to mention. And both of them, health and ethics, both of them say you cannot live alone. They clearly state this to the human beings that you cannot live alone. You have to live with the other, and while living with the other, you should know your limitations and you should know your responsibilities as well. So that is how both of them play a significant role in the human life, especially in the contemporary pandemic life. And whether the question that often comes is, as I firstly said, the question that we have to address is how do we define or understand health? Unfortunately, most of the times it appears that health is only biological kind of one, but health is not just limited to a biological kind of one. So when we try to address this question of health, we have to ask certain questions like, is it a state or a process? Do you consider health to be a state, a particular state? Or do you consider health to be a process? No? Healthy life is a process. Do you think it is a process or it is a particular state of the biological system or mind, whatever it may be? So if you consider it to be a particular state, then it gets limited to biological one. But if you consider it to be a process, if you consider health to be a process, then it goes beyond the biological. Probably it brings in psychological, or if you believe in spirituality, it brings in spiritual. And if you still have wider horizon of understanding, then it brings in cosmic view as well. So that is how whether you consider health to be a process or a state is a very important question that we have to address so that we can reach or we can relate it to ethical perspective. The other one is when we look at health, do you think health is a natural state or ill health is a natural state and health is an artificial state? Or ill health is an artificial state and health is a natural state? This is another interesting question that we have to address so that we get clarity with regard to what we are, how we are understanding health. Okay, so I just opened this Pandora's box of questions so that you can think about it on your own, because sometimes people understand that ill health of each one of us can be something that something that is internally created and something that is created by the external agencies. So if it is only an internally created one, then the biological system has its own resources of curing it. And even if it is an external one, though the biological system takes its own time in understanding the other being which is attacking the biological system, but it would generate its own immunity system to attack that and cure it. So that is how it is very important to understand whether health is to be considered as an internal one or an external one, or ill health is to be understood as an internal one and external one. And for this, because this pandemic that we have come across, though it creates an internal disease, the agency that comes is from outside, external disease and external agent. And when there is an influence of external agent on the individual in extending the ill health, okay, because you don't stop the ill health with yourself, you tend to extend your ill health to others as well, because it is contagious. And in such kind of situations, the moral behavior is very important in sustaining the health and also stopping the or curbing the ill health, conditions of ill health. So it is not that health or ill health is only a state. It is also that we have to understand the conditions of health and conditions of ill health, which play a bigger role, much influential and bigger role. And once we start talking about conditions of health and ill health, you cannot stop without bringing ethics into picture. Okay, that is the most important point that we would like to stress here. And let me just explain you how, as I said, health is initially understood to be a biological condition. But WHO, World Health Organization, in 1948 understood that this kind of understanding of health only in terms of biological well-being, is a is a kind of reductive way of understanding, and he tried to go beyond this reductionism and try to give a broader definition of health. And this World Health Organization report in 1948 defines health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. Okay. So this definition is provided was included in 1948, where it clearly states, it doesn't end with the first statement where it tries to define health in terms of complete physical, social, and mental well-being, but it adds the sentence where it says it's not merely the biological one alone. So this is a very important one. However, even this definition, I have written an article on this stating that even this definition of WHO has its own limitations in the sense that it doesn't take environment into consideration. It only talks about the individual and it limits with the individual, but its relational aspect is very important, which has to be taken into consideration. And though it talks about social relations and the psychological impact, it doesn't take environmental aspects into consideration. That is the limitation of this definition that I have pointed out. Yeah, but basically, this is with regard to the health that we have to make note of in relation to ethics. Now, coming to ethics, how do we understand that? It is always, some of our youngsters feel that it is always confusing. Where do we limit it? What do we consider it to be its scope? What should we consider it to be the nature of ethics, right? But one thing where we can accept, we can all agree, is you can't hear. I hope I can hear. I am audible, right, friends?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, somebody is messaging saying that he can't hear, he or she. Yeah, probably there is some problem with your network. It's a network, my friend. So when it comes to morality, you cannot deny that there are two aspects. One is the self, and the other is where the individual is looked at, and the other one is the group or society or community. So at least you cannot deny that there is an importance to the self and there is an importance to the relational aspect of the self, where the social ontology comes into the picture to help us understand morality in a better way. And in the similar way, when you look at the life, when you look at the life, something that is that comes forward, that makes us look at life in a different way, or look more from life, is sustenance. Sustenance of human life is important, and sustenance of relations of human life or stress, sustenance of institutions are also very important. And ethics tries to, in fact, address all these aspects: sustenance of human life, sustenance of relations, and sustenance of institutions which were developed over a period of time in the form of the civilizational growth. Okay, all are rooted in moral bonding of the individual. The sustenance of human life, sustenance of relations, and sustenance of institutions, all of them are rooted in the moral bonding of the individual. Okay, so that is all. Whenever we have to understand well-being, which is a broader term than health, we have to understand morality. We have to take note of morality in our discussion. And what is it that in which morality is rooted? Obviously, you have to again come back to the self. It cannot be rooted elsewhere. It has to be rooted in the self, or it has to be rooted in the relational ontology, right? Only these two are the spaces where you can root morality. So it doesn't matter whether it is pandemic okay, or non-pandemic situation, this rootedness of morality in the individual, in the self, and social ontology is very important. So it goes, it definitely plays a significant role in the pandemic, and it also goes beyond the pandemic in the sense that even in the non-pandemic situation, the importance of morality in terms of its rootedness in the self and relational ontology cannot be uh, uh, ignored. And now the point that comes is, what is life? How do we understand life? And what is it that sustains life? Obviously, something that sustains life is at the individual level health, and at the community level the ethics. You know, these two are the ones which sustain life, whether you call it social life, political life, whatever kind of life, biological life. These two are very important for the society and the community. So, coming to the understanding of what is life, life is not just the biological system, breathing and living. Okay, it is something beyond that, in the sense that the individual affects, acts, and reacts to the external given world, the other, through his psychophysical, spiritual, and if you are broader enough in thinking, cosmic mechanism. And that is how you get you relate yourself with the you act and react to the factual world that is given to us. And this relational aspect, or this interaction, is broadly relational. The individual's action and reaction to the empirical world through his psychological and biological and spiritual mechanism is broadly, or has to be understood in terms of relational one. And if we understand it to be a relational one, then what is it that is being related? Self and the other. So these two are getting related there. And these two are always mutually effective. Since they are mutually effective, the morality strongly comes into the picture. That is how this is essentially the relation that we are talking about in human life is essentially ethical, and the relation is based on ethics. And why do we call it ethical or ethics? Because it stresses the importance of freedom. Okay, when the individual is acting and reacting to the world, he looks at himself as a free agent. Otherwise, it doesn't work out, right? So it cannot be considered to be moral. And if he is not free, it doesn't work out. And the pre-pandemic times, what was the condition? We were relatively more free. And in the pandemic condition, this is what we have to understand. Basically, we are not yet sure whether we have crossed or whether we have reached post-pandemic stage. Okay, because I remember during last December, November onwards, people started talking about new normal and post-pandemic life, etc. Okay, the discussion still continues. They spoke as though by January we were reaching a new normal, right? Post-pandemic stage. But now we understood that we are still in the pandemic stage, and the post-pandemic seems to be very near to us, but it's very far to us even now, because we still anticipate third wave, which may affect us all, which means another 3-4 months of our social life or life outside gets limited, okay, because of the pandemic restrictions. And that is how the freedom of the individual in the pandemic times is largely limited, and that is how the moral aspect is getting affected, and that is where the moral aspect of the individual is getting more stressed. Moral aspect of the relational aspect is getting largely restricted, but moral aspect of the individual is getting stressed. Another important point here is the repeatability of human actions. Whenever we talk about ethics, friends, let us also try to understand ethics from a different perspective, in the sense that from the childhood, when you are taught to be ethical, you are taught in terms of repeatability of your action. What are the actions that you can repeat, and what are the actions that you cannot repeat in your life, are taught continuously from the childhood. And that is how the moral training happens to each one of us. And in the pre-pandemic times, the repeatability of actions was more, and we enjoyed repeating certain things and enjoyed not repeating certain things, doing innovative things as well. But the repeatability of certain things and doing innovatively other things has become largely limited in the pandemic. And the other thing that the pandemic has affected with regard to human life is predictability. Predictability of human life is very important for each one of us because that's what comforts our mind and that's what makes us. If you can predict what is going to happen tomorrow or what kind of action, your action would result in what kind of effect, then you would be more comfortable in acting. Otherwise, if there is unpredictability, then you try to refrain from acting in certain ways. So that is how predictability was very important aspect in the pre-pandemic times. But now this predictability is largely hampered. And these three things, the freedom, repeatability, and predictability, play a huge role on the human psyche in building one's relations with the other. And that's where two important aspects of social life, whether it is health in terms of social health or physical health, two important aspects get affected: responsibility and trust. So you don't know whether you can trust. It's not that you don't want to trust the other because the other may be deceiving you. So such kind of situations are different. But here, you cannot trust the other because not because the other is trying to be cunning, but because the other may be innocent as well. Even if the other is innocent, that becomes a problem for you in continuing with the pandemic situation. That is how, I'm sorry if I'm not audible. I'm trying to be louder. I hope I'm audible, right? Because Prof. Tiwari is saying that I'm not audible. I hope I'm okay. Yeah, I'll try to be more louder. So these three aspects, freedom, repeatability, and predictability, are the ones which have a stronger impact on responsibility of the individual and also trust of the individual. So only the trust is the one which builds your human relations, and responsibility is the one which makes you part of the society, a stronger, active agent in the social relations. So that is how these two are strongly affected. And whenever we talk about responsibility is very important aspect for me, whether you're talking about ethics or whether you're talking about health. Okay, so whenever you talk about public health, it is always responsibility that plays a significant role. That is how in social ontology as well as in the ontology of the health and individuals, everywhere responsibility plays a key role. So you cannot limit responsibility only to an abstract discussion on theory of action. Okay, it plays a significant role in understanding health as well. I hope I have some more time. Yeah. I'll try to conclude in another 5-10 minutes. I'm sorry for taking more time. Yeah. So this responsibility, how do I understand this responsibility, is the question that I have. Only if one is free, you can hold him to be responsible. Only if one is autonomous, as Kant has said, Immanuel Kant, only if one is autonomous, you can hold the person to be responsible. And if only the individual has choice, you can hold the individual responsible, right? These are the three prerequisites that must be there. Similarly, when we talk about responsibility at the individual level, okay, I have the responsibility of consequences. I have the responsibility of the consequences of my actions and the decisions that I'm taking. Whether I want to go to a market without a mask, or whether I want to do something, arrange a party, or whatever it may be. At this individual level, as the individual self, I have the responsibility of the consequences of the actions and the consequences of the decisions that I take. So, which means the consequentialism comes strongly in supporting responsibility to be a key component of understanding the relation between health and ethics. Okay. And the second important one is, first one is the self, the individual. Second one is self and the other. Okay. So responsibility towards others is my own duty that I have towards others. And that is how responsibility as a deontological concept also comes into picture strongly in this pandemic times, trying to relate ethics with health. And the third important one is a responsibility as a virtue. And obviously, we all consider responsibility to be a human virtue that we all should cultivate and nurture so that the society becomes a virtuous society, right? So that is how the virtue ethics also comes into picture. Okay, where do we place the relation between health and ethics? Do we place it with consequentialism, or do we place it with deontology, or do we place it in the domain of virtue ethics? Is left to us. Whatever you may take, but still the importance that is given is to the relation between health and ethics, which you cannot ignore. So that is how my health is dependent on my responsible actions. Okay, so that's how health and morality really come together strongly, and you cannot avoid that. So my health is dependent on my responsible actions, and my or others' health is also dependent on my responsibility towards others. So how do I understand my responsibility towards others plays a significant role in determining my health as well as others' health. And the third one is health can be achieved and maintained by practicing the virtue of responsible action. Okay, so that's how all these three ethical theories that we have, consequentialism, deontology, and virtue ethics, strongly come forward and advocate responsibility to be at the center, which only can help us sustain human life in terms of relating it to health. So this is what is very strongly that I would like to stress here. What I would like, I'm just trying to wind up my discussion. In this process, what is important for each one of us is at the individual level, alignment is very important. Okay, alignment in the sense that we do use this term alignment, right? Alignment in if you have a four-wheeler, they say wheel alignment. They take all the four wheels out and they try to align all the four wheels in relation to the other. If there are four components, all the four components are to be in relation to the other in a proper way. Okay, so that's what is alignment. Even with regard to the individual, the biology, the psychology, and the spirituality, and if you agree to the cosmic order as well, then cosmos, all these four components that the individual has have to be aligned with each other in a proper way. And that's what determines the health of the individual. So health of the individual is not just biological, it's psychological, spiritual, as well as cosmic. The alignment of these three is very important. Similarly, there is another triad which is important: the manas, vak, and the action, karma. Okay, manasa, vacha, karma. So all these three aspects have to be in alignment with each other, and only that leads us to a kind of healthy life. So healthiness is also related to ethics in Indian tradition, in the sense that the alignment of manas, vak, and action, karma, these three is very much stressed, and which is very important. And other important aspect is balance. It is not that you would give more importance to only one aspect of human life. So that is how we come to a holistic conception of life, which is stressed in Indian tradition. And this holistic conception of life is not like so many individuals separately, sporadically trying to be developing their own selves. No, it is a whole which is an integrated one, which means which is related with each other. So this integrated, harmonious, holistic conception of life is what is stressed, and only that will have both ethics and health to be together. The health and ethics would be together in such kind of harmonious, integrated, healthy life, and that's what we have to look for. And that is how, as if we understand pandemic, the present pandemic situation, and if we try to understand health in a more wider, broad sense, the best way is to understand it from Indian conception as something that is holistic, harmonious, and integrated. So this is for your submission, and I thank the organizers for giving me this wonderful opportunity, and I thank my previous speaker, D.N. Tiwari ji, and other speakers and organizing committee members for this wonderful opportunity.
Thank you, sir, for such informative and beneficial lecture. There is a query in our box. Someone writes that, would you please give some moral guidelines to the present political system or situation to our country?
I rather limit myself to academics, not to political, giving any guidelines to the political system. Because I believe the political system is doing its job, because it's an unprecedented situation in which we are. It is not that somebody can expect, somebody can predict what would be the consequences of the actions and what would be the pandemic, the influence of the pandemic. So in such kind of situation, unpredictable situation, it's very difficult for any system to respond in an appropriate way. So it's all trial and error method that each of the systems, whether you consider the political system of India or China or USA, they would be following. So that's how I believe it's unfair to be judgmental on any of these systems. Yeah.
Okay, sir. And one of our students, Priyanka, want to know why a man is responsible for others' health.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Thank you, Priyanka, for asking this. The point is, for the first time in human life, we understood that survival is health, okay, or health is survival. Before that, people understood survival in terms of many other things like political power, etc., right? But for the first time, we understood that health and survival are equally important, and in fact, they become synonymous. So, in that kind of a situation, your health, no, in fact, we can say that pandemic has taught us that you cannot be healthy all alone. Only if your surroundings are healthy, you can continue to be healthy. Okay. So maintenance of surroundings has become very important. The health of your surroundings has become very important for you to continue to be healthy. So that is how other person's health is equally important as your health, because that would affect you. And again, you cannot retain your health for a long time with if you are surrounded by people with ill health.
Okay, sir. Thank you again for the discussion. And now our next speaker is Dr. Laxmikanta Padhi from North Bengal University. My colleague, Dr. Saheli Basu Dey, will introduce Dr. Padhi. Over to you, Saheli.
Welcome to you, Professor Laxmikanta.
Sorry. Thank you, Kosturi. Good evening, everyone. I would like to introduce our next distinguished speaker of the first day of online series of lectures, Dr. Laxmikanta Padhi from North Bengal University. Now I introduce himself in brief. Dr. Laxmikanta Padhi is the head and associate professor in the Department of Philosophy, University of North Bengal, Shiliguri. He has received his BA and MA from Utkal University, MPhil and PhD from Jadavpur University, Kolkata. His specialization includes practical ethics, especially environmental ethics and sustainable development, moral philosophy, Buddhism, and philosophy of religion. He has co-edited Moral Language in 2010, Phenomenological Meaning in 2014, and editor-in-chief of Philosophical Papers, Journal of the Department of Philosophy, University of North Bengal. Currently, he is working on a book entitled Current Environmental Issues and Philosophy to be published by Northern Book Center, New Delhi. He has been awarded research projects on animal ethics, philosophy of religion and environmental ethics funded by UGC. He has an associate in IIAS Shimla from 2016 to 2018. He has contributed 40 papers in the national and international journals, anthologies, and international proceedings, and presented many papers in international as well as national seminars, refreshers, orientation courses, programs under UGC HRDC in different parts of the country. He has also published papers on Buddhist, animal philosophy, and ecological ethics. He has also proved his administrative efficiency in the University of North Bengal in the capacities of Register, chairmanship, and membership in committees related to Board of Studies, research, PG and UG, anti-ragging, NAAC, examinations, hostels, student elections, cultural activities, and other activities. Other academic bodies in the universities of Delhi, Assam, and West Bengal. He is a life member of the Journal of ICPR New Delhi and enlisted under the scheme of dissemination of knowledge of ICPR New Delhi, life member of Indian Philosophical Congress, member of Book Club IIAS Shimla, and member Afro-Asian Philosophical Congress. So, may I request you to please start your valuable lecture. Please, over to Dr. Padhi. His topic is what makes a human being valuable. So please start, Dr. Padhi. Thank you. Please proceed, Dr. Padhi. Where is you?
Please unmute. So Laxmikanta, unmute your mic.
Where is Dr. Padhi?
He's very much there.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Please check.
Yes, start.
Yes, now we
Yes,
can hear
over
you.
to you.
Okay, am I audible now?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. Thank
Okay,
you.
okay.
Thank you for being here today.
Sadasiva Samarambham Sankaracharya Madhyamam Asmat Acharya Paryantam Bande Guru Parampara. Respected Principal Madam, respected Head of the Department of Philosophy, Victoria College, Calcutta, the coordinator and convener of this program, of this 2 days program, my co-speaker, Professor D.N. Tiwari and Professor Bala Ganapathi. Also, I can find my teacher who have joined for some time, Professor Sarat Panigrahi, who happened to be my best teacher in my PG days at Utkal University. I am thankful to all of you, specifically to the family of the Department of Philosophy, Victoria Institution College at Calcutta. I am also thankful to ICPR for sponsoring this program, and special thanks goes to Professor Bala Ganapathi for sanctioning this program at ICPR's Research Project Committee meeting. Today I have a presentation of a PowerPoint mode that will be consisting of I think 40 or 45 slides. Let me go start to that presentation. Is it visible? My PPT is visible? Yeah. As you know, this is a program sponsored by ICPR, specifically Indian Philosophers Day celebration. So I have confined my title as what makes a human being valuable. And in this presentation, what I am going to discuss today, everybody knows that what is meant by value. Then I'll discuss Aristotle's 3 kinds of life which thought to be valuable. I will also discuss Aristotle and Kant on value very briefly. After discussing Aristotle and Kant, how can you think that, or how do you find that what is ultimately valuable? I will also touch upon Camus, Schopenhauer's Nietzsche and existentialism on value. Then I will straight go to Indian tradition and culture and value. I will narrate a mythological story about Devaraj Indra. Then I will go to the Niti Shastra. Then also I will touch upon something on Peter Singer, on why be moral or valuable. Then I will go to my proposed conclusion. See, we human beings are basically dependent on everything. We are not independent. We are dependent on bonding and relationship. And by depending upon, we value things. We value friendships. We value career. We value prosperity, environment, and knowledge. These seem to be good and worthy of pursuit. Many things are valuable not merely as things for their own sake, but as things for the sake of something else. The question remains, where does the chain of values end? It seems that the chain of value must end somewhere, though some value can be valued by virtue of being means to further values. But not all values can be values of this kind. So ultimately, what is valuable? That is valuable, which is valuable for its own sake. I mean, that is valuable, that has a value which is intrinsically valuable. You know, in moral philosophy, there are 2 kinds of value, instrumental value and intrinsic value. I am talking about intrinsic value. If you go to Nicomachean ethics, Aristotle says, to get a chain of value off the ground, something will have to be valuable by virtue of itself. Aristotle, in his book, Nicomachean Ethics, in chapter 10, he says, things achievable by action have some end, and that we wish for because of itself, and because of which you wish for the other things. We do not choose everything because of something else. Because if we do, it will go on without limit, so that desire will prove to be empty and futile. Now, Aristotle basically distinguishes 3 types of life which are thought to be valuable. The first life he is talking about is the life of enjoyment. It's a kind of consequentialist life, or it's a kind of hedonistic life. The second is the political life, that is the life of a statesperson. And the third is the light of contemplation, where you can find the life of a philosopher or a student of nature. Now, what is this? What do you mean by contemplation? According to Aristotle, contemplation is not research or inquiry, but an activity that develops from research of understanding. And what is the objective of contemplation? The very object or aim of contemplation are God and in heavens. Contemplation is the only activity that is loved for itself and alone. So for Aristotle, what makes a human being valuable? It is the life of contemplation, not the life of eudaimonia, not the life of politics, political life, not the life of a statesperson, not the life of a hedonistic life, but a life of contemplation. Because God is the activity of thinking on thinking, and the aim of contemplative life is to engage in this divine activity. So Aristotle is very clear about human beings' valuability. If somebody asks, what do you mean by how Aristotle understands happiness? Aristotle will say, it is an activity of the soul which follows or implies a rational principle in accordance with excellence. You know, we have already know that there are 4 cardinal virtues according to Plato and Aristotle, and that eudaimonia, according to in Nicomachean Ethics, is a kind of activities of excellence, and that excellence makes you happy. The good must be self-sufficient and the final, and it must consist in activity, and it must be pleasant. So what is happiness for Aristotle? The good is the happiness for Aristotle. If you go through Kant will say the only thing that can be found anywhere is unconditional value is a goodwill. Kant will say it is goodwill which makes us valuable. As Kant envisions the structure of justification, the good conditioned by the goodness of the ends which they serve. So in very briefly said, we can say that according to Kant, that which has a goodwill is valuable. Since a goodwill is the only unconditionally good thing, everything else must be ultimately trace its justification to this. The goodwill is the source of value, and without it, nothing would have any real worth. If you go to the critique of practical reason, Kant say that what we call good must be, in the judgment of every reasonable man, an object of the faculty of desire. Thus, the reasons for calling a thing good or valuable must be universalizable. So according to Kant, that thing, that goodwill or that reasonable rational capacity of a human being makes him valuable. So if you then the question arises, what is ultimately valuable? And there are many proposed answers. Some will propose that ultimate value can be found in developing oneself. Other will argue that it is ultimately valuable to have one's preferences or desire satisfied. There are others still argue that there are several things worth having for their own sake without any of these being reducible to one supreme value. Perhaps pleasure, knowledge, friendship, and virtue all are ultimately valuable, or perhaps there is hardly any value reduction at all, and many or most values are ultimately valuable or ultimate value. If you go to Albert Camus will say, Camus actually feel that human life is absurd, meaningless, and senseless. If somebody asks a question to Camus that what is the meaning of life, and Camus will say, this is the urgent questions, because I see many people die because they judge that life is not worth living. I see others paradoxically getting killed for the ideas or illusions that gave them a reason for living. In absurdist philosophy, the absurdity of life arises out of the fundamental disharmony between needs and aspiration of human beings. See what Camus says. Camus says there is a fundamental disharmony between need and aspiration of human beings and the apparent meaninglessness of the universe. That's why we are finding meaningfulness in our life, and to find meaningfulness in life means we are in absurdity. If you go to Schopenhauer asked a question, what is the meaning of life? What is the value of life? Struggling with personal misery and a sense of loneliness and isolation, Schopenhauer tried to find some understanding of himself and the world around him that appeared to him as senseless. He was absolutely alone, with not a single friend, and between one and none there lies infinity. So according to Schopenhauer, it is their meaningfulness or valuableness of human being is a kind of infinity. If you go to Nietzsche argued that there are two fundamental type of moral values. The first is the master morality that values pride and power. The second is slave morality that values kindness, empathy, and sympathy. Nietzsche says that morality or value is always just an interpretation. It is nothing. It is just an interpretation. If you go to Nietzsche gives an affirmative philosophy of life instead of Schopenhauer's pessimistic or life-denying philosophy. In The Will to Power, he speaks of the creative strength is to create meaning. The meaning of life or the value of life is to be created, not to be discovered. We human beings must create our value. We should not discover our value. The mistake lies in thinking that our meaning and values are present in things in themselves. All meaning, all values are created by us. All meaning is our will to power. All valuable things are is will to power. If you go to existentialism, existentialist approach can act as a therapy for solving the psychological problems. This approach is based on the client's responsibility and freedom. It believes that people have the capacity for self-awareness and choice. They tries to help the client finding meaning in discontent and suffering. How a human being's life is valuable. If we find a meaning in discontent and suffering, then you can find the value of your life. For the existentialist, creativity, love, authenticity may enable people to live meaningful life in the face of discontent and suffering. Unless and until you face, or unless and until you enjoy the life of discontent and suffering, your life is not valuable. A human being's life is not meaningful. That's why existentialist is talking about also freedom. If you go to Indian tradition, specifically the four Mahavakyas, then you can find that four Mahavakyas are basically spiritual in character. And that makes a person or human being valuable. Everybody knows about that Mahavakyas. Prajnanam Brahman, Ayamatma Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi, and Tattvamasi. I don't want to discuss everything. Now come to the one mythological story as I narrated, as I simply hinted out in my introduction. Look, why I want to narrate the story of Indra here? Because I want to prove that Indra's uniqueness is reduced to infinity. His life is meaningless. He has no value, even if he's Devaraj, but he has no value. The story goes like this. One day, Indra called Vishwakarma to build a palace worthy of his glory. So Vishwakarma built him a palace, but it did not satisfy Indra. So another bigger and grander palace was built. But even this was not good enough to Indra. So Vishwakarma built another palace, yet another palace. That palace is also not satisfied by Indra. So Vishwakarma again built another grand palace or bigger palace. Then suddenly, desperate Vishwakarma went to Vishnu and asked for help. And Vishnu appeared in front of Indra in the form of a child. Indra took him around, showing him many palaces built by Vishwakarma. Indra then very sheepishly added that none of them actually matched his greatness. Not a single palace, whatever grand palace may it be, not a single palace is not matched to his glory or to his uniqueness. But Vishnu, as the little boy, was not impressed and informed Indra that his palaces, though wonderful, were not wonderful as the palaces of the Indras who lived before him. I mean, this comment of Vishnu worried Indra, and he asked the boy, "What do you mean by saying that before him? Don't you think that I am the only Indra who is unique in character, who is so special in character?" The boy laughed and mentioned that there were many Indras in the world. There were many Indras before him, and there would be many Indras after him. And there are right now many Indras. Right at that very moment, there were as many as Indras in different realms as there were grains of sand on a beach. Each one of them was trying to outdo the other by building a great palace worthy of his glory, and none could achieve this. Indra came and went with the season, and in the universe, which is a canvas of infinity, each Indra is eventually reduced to infinity or nothingness or meaninglessness. Indra realized that in the denominator of infinity, which is the universe, he had no essential value. This story of Indra now gives us another idea of value. And that idea of value bothered the rishis, the monks, the seers, the foresighters in Indian tradition. They kept asking what it was, since nothing matters when placed against the canvas of infinity. They observe the elements. For the seers, they observe the elements, fire, water, and wind, do not consume anything because they valued nothing. Plants, on the other hand, value the elements as they consume them in order to survive. Plants seek sunlight, they need air, they need water, they need the earth to survive and seek out valuable nutrients. Thus, value is created when the consumer gives value to the commodity it consumes. So, see, this is the view given by Nietzsche and given by Camus. The value is created when the consumer gives value to the commodity it consumes. Plant gives value to elements by consuming them. Animals give value to plants by consuming them. Look, a plant is valuable because animal consumes them. Animal gives value to other animals by consuming them. Food, the act of bhoga or eating, creates value. And why this word is bhoga here? Look, if there is jeev or if there is jiva, there is bhoga. If there is bhoga, there is hingsa. And if there is hingsa, there is nyaya. That is called matsya nyaya, and as it is available in Satapatha Brahmana. Now humans consume everything. They consume plant, animal, minerals. We found value in everything. And by consuming them, we give value to nature around us and transform them into various commodities. Now the question is, what gives value to humans? Who consume humans? Human consumes everything. But who consumes humans? Who eat humans? Humans have found a very innovative way of creating value without being consumed physically, unlike plants and animals. We create value through goods and services. We exchange in the marketplace. This bestows value on us as providers. This is the unique capacity of human being. We consume value and also we create value. Unlike animals whose bodies are consumed by their predators, humans create value that can be consumed by other human beings in the marketplace. Now the question, who consumes human? Another human consumes human. Not only can we create value and exchange value, we can also collect value. By gathering, we gather property. By gathering things, we give ourselves value. In most society, one is valued for the value one gathers in terms of material prosperity. I am what I gather. I am what I possess. Therefore, like Indra, we keep building and collecting more and become valued members of the society as someone who possesses a lot of things. In the Vedas, the rishis, the muni, the seers say that artha, I mean, if you go to the concept of purushartha here, artha is about generating food by creating goods and services. Artha is not money. Kama is satisfying this hunger. I need more and more to satisfy my hunger. And dharma, we consider the hunger of others. I mean, what is dharma? How to fulfill others' hunger. And what is moksha? When we outgrow our own hunger. Only then, only when we outgrow our hunger, we can be generous and charitable and let things go. And that is the problem with Indra. Indra has not outgrown his hunger for things and palaces, and therefore he is seeking value for himself by building grand palaces which is not suit to his glory. Therefore, he is unable to be generous. He seeks value from the things he possesses. Possession do not gives us value. Rather, wisdom gives us value. Only when we outgrow our hunger can we can only we can get moksha. And specifically in Indian tradition, the value concept or the moral concept may be translated into dharma. But frankly speaking, dharma cannot be translated into English. You cannot translate dharma. It is impossible to translate the word dharma into English. But for our sake of understanding, we say morality or value. But that is also not the exact translation. If you go to the Vaisheshika Sutra, you can find the concept of dharma there when it is said that yataha abhyudayani shreyasa siddhi sa dharma. Dharma is that which leads to the attainment of abhyudaya, and nishreyasa is dharma. I mean total cessation of suffering. If you go to the Vaisheshika Sutra, you can find. Even if you go to the Anusasana Parva of Mahabharata, Adhyay 107, it is said that dharma is not developing character. It is not for developing intelligence. It is for developing character. It is said that Agamanam hi sarvesam acharo srestha uchyate acharo prabhavo dharma dharmat ayu vivardate. এই পৃথিবীতে যতগুলি আচারও আছে, যতগুলি আগম আছে, সেই সব আগম থেকে সব থেকে শ্রেষ্ঠ আগম হচ্ছে আচার। আচারো প্রভব ধর্ম, দ্যাট আচার ইজ বিহেভিয়ার, বিকজ ব্যবহারেণ ইয়ায়ন্তে মিত্রণী রিপবস্তথা। Nobody is a satru or nobody is a bandhu from the birth. It is by your behavior which makes you a bandhu or which makes you a enemy. Vyavaharena yayante mitrani ripavastata. Even if you go to the Swargarahana Parva of Mahabharata, it is said that Vyasa says, Urdhva bahu viromyesa nacha kaschit strunoti me dharmart arthascha kamascha sa kimartham na sevyati. Vyasa says, with my arms raised, I am lamenting. No one listens to me. Urdhva bahu viromyesa nacha kaschit strunoti me. Nobody listens to me. Dharmat arthascha kamascha. Dharma accomplishes both earning of wealth and fulfilling of desire. Dharmat arthascha kamascha. Dharma ki na nijer desire ke satisfy kora ebong wealth acquire kora on the basis of dharma. Jodi eta dharma hoy tahle ami dharma acharon korbo na keno? This is the paradox of Vyasadeva, and he is asking question to Sri Krishna. Then, as I have already hinted out in my introduction, that I will refer to Niti Shastra. Look, what are the human values found in Niti Shastra? Professor D.N. Tiwari has illustrated a lot of things. Also, Professor Bala has already illustrated a lot of things. But I have to do a little more about that illustration. Look, it is said that Aishwarjasya vibhushanam sujanata saurjasya vakya sanjamo jnanasya uposama kulasya vinaya vitasya patre vyaya. What does it mean? An affluent and a rich person is adorned if he is kind. A powerful person by control over his speech. A learned person is adorned by his peace of mind. Humbleness adorns a noble person, and the money spent is appreciated if it is for a worthy cause. What makes a human being valuable? It is effort and effort. In the Niti Shastra, it is said that it is only effort that makes one valuable. Because na abhiseko na sanskar singhasya kriyate bane vikramarjita rajyasya swayameva narendrata. There is no official coronation ceremony held to declare a lion the king in jungle. See, when we say that the king of the jungle, the lion, there is no official celebration. The lion himself is declared as a king. Similarly, a person can achieve a position above other with his virtues and effort. It is because of the capacity a person can be valuable. Now, who is a person of values? It is said that in Niti Shastra, that specifically in Vidura Niti, buddhi prabhava tejascha sattvam utthanameva vyavasayascha yasya syat syabruti bhayam krutah. One who has brains, chivalry, poise, power, enthusiasm, and willingness to work, why she has to worry about earning of living? যদি কেউ বুদ্ধিমান হয়, শ্রেষ্ঠতা থাকে বা আত্মবিশ্বাস থাকে বা উৎসাহপূর্বক কাজ করে, তাহলে তার জন্য তার বেঁচে থাকার জন্য কোনো চিন্তা তাকে করতে হবে না। That person is a valuable person according to Vidura Niti. Even if who is a person of value? Alasasya kuto vidya, avidyasya kuto dhanam, adhanasya kuto mitram, amitrasya kuto sukham. The person who is lazy, does not put in effort, is unable to acquire knowledge. Alasasya kuto vidya, those who are lazy person, তাদের বিদ্যা হবে না। অবিদ্যস্য কুত ধনম, যার কাছে বিদ্যা নেই তার কাছে ধন সম্পত্তি হবে না। অধনস্য কুত মিত্রম, যার কাছে ধন সম্পত্তি নেই তার কোনো বন্ধু নেই। অমিত্রস্য কুত সুখম, যার কাছে বন্ধু নেই তার কাছে সুখ নেই। So This is the valuable characteristic in Niti Shastra. Now, who is a Jnani? A valuable person is a Jnani person in the Niti Shastra. Nahi kaschit vijnanati vijanati king kasya bhavishyati atah swa karaniyani puryadeva buddhiman. One never knows what will happen tomorrow. Therefore, a buddhiman vyakti should do tomorrow's task today itself. যে কাজটা কালকে করার কথা সেটা আজকে করলেই সেই বুদ্ধিমান হবে। Even if it is also said that udyame noiva siddhyanti karyani no manorathai nahi suptasya singhasya pravishyanti mukhe mrugaha. Without rigorous effort, nothing can be accomplished or nothing can be valuable or nothing can be meaningful. Just like a deer does not enter a lion's mouth in its womb. সিংহ যদি শিকার করতে না যায় বা বাঘ যদি শিকার করতে না যায়, শিকার কিন্তু অটোমেটিক্যালি ওর মুখে আসে না, কেননা উদ্যম বা ইফোর্ট না করলে কোনো কিছু হয় না। সিংহ যত বড় শক্তিমান হোক না কেন, সিংহই যে রাজা হলেও মুখে খাবারটা তার মুখে কেউ দিয়ে দেয় না। Just like a deer does not enter a lion's mouth on its own without him going for a hunt. Without going for a hunt, the deer does not come automatically to the lion's mouth. He has to take effort, and effort makes you humility and makes a person of humility. Why? Because it is vidya dadati vinayam vinaya dadyati patratam patratvam baddhomapnati dharmat dhana dharma tatah sukham. Knowledge brings humility. A man of value is a man of knowledge. A man of humility is a man of worthiness, and from worthiness one attains wealth. From wealth one is able to perform his duty. So if a person perform his duty, then only he or she can attain happiness. Because a person of value is prepared to face any crisis. Because it is said in the Niti Shastra, Chintaniyahi vipadam adaveva pratikriya nakupo khananam juktam pradipte bandhina gune gruhe. One must always be prepared for the worst situation. A person of value, a Jnani person, always prepared to face a worst situation. It is too late to show concern and take remedial step after facing a calamity. Just like it is futile to dig a well when the house is already on fire. বাড়িতে আগুন লেগে গেছে, তখন যদি কেউ কুয়ো কূপ খনন করে জল আনে, that is a futile action. And also, extreme yearning makes one meaningless. Ati trishna no kartabhya, trishnang noiva parityajet, sanaischa bhoktabhyam, swayam vittam uparjitam. If you go to the Subhasita Sangraha, you can find extreme yearning should be avoided. Let me go to one more point about extreme yearning. Look what it is said that in Yaksha Parva in Mahabharata, Yaksha asks to Yudhishthira, क्रोध सुदुर्जय शत्रु लोभर व्याधि अनंतक सर्वभूत हित साधु असाधु निर्दय स्मृत. Yaksha asked a question to Yudhishthira. Who is the enemy of men difficult to conquer? What is the endless desire? What is the nature of good man and what is the nature of bad man? Then Yudhishthira answers, anger is the enemy of men which is difficult to conquer. Greed is the endless desire. A good man is one who seeks welfare of all beings. A bad man is one who has no compassion or mercy. Greed or extreme yearning, because it is also said that lobho mulani papani sankatani tathaivacha lobhat pravartate vairam ati lobhat vinasyati. Greed is the cause of sin. Greed is the cause of calamity. Greed gives rise to enmity, and greed destroys a person. That's why greed should be avoidable. And if a person, a non-greedy person, is a wise person, and what is the characteristic of a wise person? Namanti phalina bruksha, namanti gunina janaha, suska kathascha murkhascha, no namanti kadachana. The branch গাছে যখন ফল বেশি হয় তখন গাছের ডালটা নিচু হয়ে যায়। কেন হয়ে যায়? যাতে ওর ফলটা সোসাইটির সব লোকেরা উপভোগ করুক। Similarly, a জ্ঞানী person a valuable person is always a number person. Because the universe, the unwise or murkha, however, may be like a dry log, never bends. শুষ্ক কাঠশ্চ মূর্খশ্চ, একটা শুষ্ক কাষ্ঠ, শুষ্ক কাঠ কখনো কি নমনীয় হয় না। সিমিলারলি মূর্খরা, যারা আনওয়াইজ পার্সন, তারাও সেরকম নমনীয় হয় না। A person of value is a rare person. You cannot find a valuable person everywhere, because it says that soile soile na manikyam mautikam na gaje gaje sadhavo nahi sarvatram chandanam na bane bane. সব পাহাড়ে, সব পর্বতে মতি পাওয়া যায় না, সব মানিক পাওয়া যায় না, সব ঐরাবত হস্তি, সব মানে গজে বা হস্তিতে মতি পাওয়া যায় না, সব জঙ্গলে চন্দন গাছ পাওয়া যায় না। সিমিলারলি সব জায়গায় সাধু ব্যক্তি পাওয়া যায় না। সাধু ব্যক্তি বলতে গেলে কি, যেটা আমি বলতে চাইলাম, হুই যে সাধু অ্যাকর্ডিং টু যুধিষ্ঠির, যেটা যক্ষ পর্বতে আমি বললাম, অসাধু যার কাছে দয়া, যে দয়াহীন সেই অসাধু। সাধু ব্যক্তিকে যার কাছে সর্বভূত হিত সাধু, the person who seeks well-being for all living beings, that person is a sadhu person. Then let me come to Peter Singer. Why Peter Singer? If you go to Peter Singer books on practical ethics or later development in Peter Singer thoughts, you can find a question that Peter Singer says, what prudential reasons are there to act morally or meaningfully? Can it be shown that living ethically will lead to happiness? If a person of meaningful life, if a person of valuableness, do you think that valuableness will lead him a happy life? Can morality and self-interest coincide? Now, these three questions are asked by Peter Singer, and I am also asking to the audience today, to this placing three questions. Can morality and self-interest coincide? According to Peter Singer, what I found after going through Peter Singer, immoral acts are not necessarily irrational. People should see that our best shot at a valuable life is by pursuing an ethical life. Responsible means being accountable. Professor Bala was talking about responsibility. Now, when responsibility is a heavy and loaded term in moral philosophy, responsibility means being accountable in word and deed, kaya, mana, and bhakya. Professor Bala was also referring about this. Having a sense of duty to fulfill tasks with reliability, dependability, and commitment. As I said, the first sentence of my presentation today starts with that human beings are bonding with human beings are dependent upon. This responsibility means we have to be dependable, we have to be committed, we have to be reliable. Otherwise, we cannot be responsible. By comparing this Western and Eastern, specifically from Niti Shastra of our Indian tradition, and specifically by comparing with Aristotle to Camus, Schopenhauer, and Nietzsche, and Immanuel Kant. Now, one question comes to my mind: are humans good or evil? Who is a sadhu? Can we say a human being is a good human being or an evil person? If you go to Thomas Hobbes, he says that humans are selfish and only care about themselves, and human being is the cause of violence and war. We need to be taught obedience to ruler in order to prevent chaos. Without the rule of law, the life of man or human would be solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. On the other hand, if you go to Rousseau says that humans naturally wanted peace and harmony. Democracy was a reflection of our belief in fairness and equality. Look, Thomas Hobbes is saying something, Rousseau is saying something. Now we have to understand, by using our critical thinking, critical mind, that are human beings good or evil, with the comparative study between Hobbes and Rousseau, and to some extent our Indian tradition. Now let me go of my proposed conclusion. I will take only 2 to 3 minutes. Ethics and ethical decision making are not simply the province of philosophers or ethicists. Our choices reveals our values to the world. If I choose something, that means I am creating value to my choices. These values are either unreflective or superficial, or and superficial or reflective and deep. Philosophical thought should help us to make our values and choices deep and thoughtful. Maybe this makes it more likely that our choices will be the right one. Finding an appropriate list of responsibility or obligation may seem like a philosopher's game, but the business of making appropriate ethical decision is not a game. One practical goal of responsibility is that it may help us to make appropriate decision in complicated circumstances. Somebody has asked a question to Professor Bala that how do you think about the political scenario today? Look, we have to take very appropriate decision in complicated circumstances. Then only we can be valuable. Then only we can be responsible. Then only we have obligations. This is not a philosopher's game. This invites multidisciplinary subjects. It is not only the philosopher task or the moral philosopher task to go for a conclusive conclusion, established conclusion. It is very difficult to find established conclusion because we cannot find an established conclusion in a complicated circumstances. We need to think that we are not bound to solve all the problems in the world. I am not here to solve all the problems in the world. My duty or our duty is only to avoid myself in creating problems. আমি পৃথিবীতে জন্ম হয়নি সব সমস্যার সমাধান করার জন্য। আমি পৃথিবীতে জন্ম হয়েছি আমার দ্বারা যাতে কোনো সমস্যা না হয়। আর যদি কোনো সমস্যা হয়ে থাকে, we must not be responsible for evil to others. We must not harm others. If we harm, we must repair the damage. This is called the ethics of responsibility and the answer to the question, what makes a human being valuable? Let me end with a mantra, Shanti mantra from Tiwari Upanishad. Sahana bhavatu, sahanau bhunaktu, sahaviryam karavavahe, tejasyuna badhitamastu, ma vidyusapate. Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti. This is my references, and I'm thank you all. Thank you all for listening to me. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Padhi. We are grateful to listen to your valuable words. It's a very thoughtful exploration in the Indian and moral value system. And you expressed a great contrast between Indian and Western moral value system. Yes, we know. Yes, in question of dharma, here Hinduism offers 4 distinct goals of life. That is Purushartha, which one need to embrace in varying degree during the different periods of life. And you start your lecture from that is human beings are dependent and bonding and relationship, which renders them vulnerable and gives them the power to violate others. Yes, absolutely. So yes, of course, philosophical thought should help us to make our values and choices deep and thoughtful. We must not be responsible for evil to others. Dharma, the obvious, goldenness, the obvious, it is not a complicated and complex thing. So this is called the ethics of responsibility, which makes a human being valuable. So we are grateful that you are coming to our college to delivering your great lecture. It's a very informative speech, I think. But one of the questions from Nav Sarip, he wants to know the main differences between moral and value.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you, those who have asked this question. See, morality is a term coined in moral philosophy. Morality is a theoretical term, but value is a practical term. Look, when you are talking about the word good or bad, the good is also a moral word, bad is also a moral word. Good is also a moral word, and evil is also a moral word. Unless and until you make a distinction between good and bad, right and wrong, good and evil, you cannot make you cannot know the distinction between morality and value. Look, morality is a theoretical word, understood and much more discussed by philosophers in our academic fraternity. But so far as value is concerned, this value is also somehow related to morality, but value has a different meaning, morality has a different meaning. We can say moral value. See, good is a moral value. Value is moral or immoral in the context of your achar or behavior. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Now, over to our colleague, Indrani Mukherjee, to conclude our first day online series of lecture.
Now, if some more question may be invited.
There are no other questions.
Specifically the students, specifically Banglaয় তারা জিজ্ঞাসা করতে পারে, স্টুডেন্টরাও জিজ্ঞাসা করতে পারে বাংলায়. Because this, see, the motto of ICPR for sanctioning Indian Philosophers Day or periodical lecture is to involve students of philosophy into the philosophical discussion. So I definitely I'll be happy if students will be involved in this discussion. The question may be তারা ভুলভাল প্রশ্ন করতেই পারে, no problem. আমরা তার জন্য তো আছি, ভুল প্রশ্ন করলেও কোনো অসুবিধা নেই, করতেই পারো। আমি দেখতে পাচ্ছি আমার অনেক স্টুডেন্টরা এখানে জয়েন করেছে আমার বিশ্ববিদ্যালয় থেকে। আই এম থ্যাঙ্কফুল টু এভরিবডি। Yes, somebody has asked a question. If it's in the chat box. Yeah, Priyanka Vishwas. Sir, a big number of people think that a man is valuable for his money. How can we change this? Yeah, see, I said that I very briefly in an introductory mark, I said that there are two kinds of value in our philosophical community, in moral philosophy basically. One is instrumental value and another is intrinsic value. I am very much referred here in my presentation about the intrinsic value portion of moral philosophy, the human behavior. Money is an instrumental, yeah, money is necessary, but money is not sufficient. If you are a good human being, your goodness or gentlemanness will invite money. But if you are a bad person, unless even if you have much more money, you have accumulated money, you will not be a good human being. That's why it is said that in Mahabharata, Urdhva bahu viramyesa nachakaschit srunoti me dharmat arthascha kamascha sakimartham na sedyate. ধর্ম যদি অর্থ এবং কাম এই দুটোকে স্যাটিসফাই করে তাহলে সেই রকম ধর্মকে আমি আচরণ করব না কেন? বিকজ মহাভারত যুদ্ধতে এভরিথিং ইজ ফিনিশড। কৌরবরা শেষ, একমাত্র ধৃতরাষ্ট্র বেঁচে থাকলেন, নোবডি। তাহলে এত বড় যুদ্ধ হলো, ধর্মযুদ্ধ হলো, এভরিথিং ইজ ফিনিশড। তাহলে কেউ আমার কথা শুনছে না। নচ কশ্চিৎ শৃণোতি মে, নোবডি লিসেন্স টু মি। দ্যাটস ওয়াই আই এম ল্যামেন্টেড। ঊর্ধ্ব বাহু, দু হাত তুলে দিয়ে বলেছেন আমি ল্যামেন্টেড। Nobody listens to me. কেন? না ধর্ম কি? না ধর্মাৎ অর্থশ্চ কামশ্চ সকিমর্থং নে সব্যতি। এই ধর্মের অনেকগুলি ডেফিনেশন আছে, আজকে সেটা বলা উচিত হবে না। There are a number of definition of dharma. But the only thing is that you cannot translate dharma into English. You cannot translate religion into English. You cannot. Similarly, dharma cannot be translated. If we at all try to translate, then the original meaning of dharma is lost. Thank you.
অনেক ধন্যবাদ ডক্টর পাধি। আমাদের আজকের মতন আমাদের সেশন শেষ। Now over to our colleague, colleague Indrani Mukherjee, to conclude our first day online series of lecture. Indrani, please proceed.
Thank you, Saheli. My sincere regards to Professor D.N. Tiwari, Professor Bala Ganapathi Devarakonda, and Dr. Laxmikanta Padhi. We are grateful to the Honorable Principal, Dr. Nivedita Chakraborty of our college, and Convener Dr. Saheli Basu Dey, and Joint Convener Srimati Meena Chakraborty for making this event a success. We would also like to thank Professor D.N. Tiwari, Professor Bala Ganapathi Devarakonda, and Dr. Laxmikanta Padhi for their informative speech. We also thankful to the departmental faculties Dr. Kosturi Mojumdar, Srimati Aditi Mistry, Sri Arindam Malakar, who have extended their hands of cooperation. The second episode of our online lecture series will start tomorrow at 4 p.m. We will share the feedback link on tomorrow's section. And I am concluding today's program here. Wishing you all good health. Thank you, viewers. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Bala. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Laxmikanta.
Thank you.
Thanks to the organizers for this wonderful
Thank you.
invitation.
Thank you.
Thank you,
sir.
Indrani.
Thank you, sir.
Indrani is happened to be my student in our university. Now she has been posted in a college. We are so happy. Yes, yes. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.